The wooden bench beneath me felt harder with every passing minute. My hands gripped it until my knuckles turned white, the only thing anchoring me as my daughter-in-law's voice filled the courtroom. "Your Honor, my son wants to live with me." Her tone carried rehearsed sincerity, smooth enough to make anyone doubt the truth. 8 months had passed since my son, Daniel, died in a car accident. And now here we were, not united in grief, but divided by a custody battle for the only piece of him left, 12-year-old Noah. He sat stiffly in his navy blazer, far too formal for his age, his young shoulders carrying a weight no child should bear. The judge, a man with silver hair and eyes sharpened by decades on the bench, adjusted his glasses. "Is that true, young man? Do you want to live with your mother?" The silence that followed seemed to stretch forever. My attorney gave my hand a reassuring squeeze, but I knew the odds. Courts favored biological parents. No matter how many nights Noah had slept at my house, no matter how many times I'd picked up the pieces of Vanessa's neglect, she was still his mother. Noah rose slowly. His voice was unsteady but clear. "Your Honor, before I answer, can I show you something?" From his pocket, he pulled out the phone I'd given him for his birthday. My breath caught. Vanessa's polished smile faltered. "Objection," she snapped. But the judge shook his head. "Family court allows wide latitude. Proceed." When Noah pressed play, the courtroom filled with her real voice, sharp, impatient, dismissive. "Stop packing. You're not going to Grandma's. Once this custody nonsense is over, you won't be spending so much time there anyway. We're moving to Phoenix with Brandon. You'll like it, there's a pool." Then came Noah's small voice on the recording. "But what about Grandma? My friends? Dad's house?" Her reply was ice. "Your grandmother has interfered enough. End of discussion." The room went still. The judge leaned back, his eyes narrowing as the sound of my grandson's quiet sobs filled the speakers. At that moment, I knew everything had changed. The recording ended with the faint slam of a door and Noah's muffled crying. The judge's expression never changed, but his eyes darkened as he turned to Vanessa. "Ms. Reynolds, would you like to explain this?" Her polished demeanor cracked. "Your Honor, I've been under terrible stress since losing Daniel. Sometimes I say things I don't mean. My son knows I love him more than anything." I bit the inside of my cheek so hard I tasted blood. For months I'd watched her cancel school pickups, leave meals undone, send Noah to me with rumpled clothes and unfinished homework. Love wasn't what I'd seen. The judge looked back at Noah. "Is there more to this?" My grandson nodded, hands trembling slightly as he scrolled. "Yes, sir." From later that night, he pressed play again. Vanessa's voice returned, this time speaking to Brandon, her new boyfriend. "Once I have full custody, we'll have more flexibility with Noah's trust fund. That old woman won't be able to block anything. And the house is already mine, but the insurance money went into the trust. Once custody is final, we'll petition to be sole trustees." Brandon's voice oozed calculation. $2 million set aside until he's grown. Once you're in control, it'll be easy. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. I felt my heart pound so hard it echoed in my ears. This wasn't just negligence, it was exploitation. The judge removed his glasses and pinched the bridge of his nose. "We'll recess for 30 minutes, he announced. "When we return, I'll hear closing arguments." As we filed out, my attorney whispered, "That changes everything. Judges hate when custody fights are about money." In the hallway, Noah slid his small hand into mine. He hadn't done that in public since he was 9. "I'm sorry, Grandma," he whispered. "I didn't want to embarrass Mom, but I had to tell the truth." Tears blurred my vision as I hugged him close. "You have nothing to be sorry for, Noah. Nothing at all." When the bailiff called us back, the courtroom air felt heavier, charged with something unspoken. Noah sat beside me, his chin held high, though I could feel the tremor in his small frame. Judge Harrison adjusted his papers, then looked directly at Vanessa. The recordings presented raised serious concerns regarding financial motivation and neglect. "Effective immediately, I'm granting temporary custody to the maternal grandmother, Ms. Clara Townsend, pending a full home study and psychological evaluation of all parties." For a heartbeat, silence. Then the words seemed to explode inside me. Temporary custody, those 2 words meant Noah would sleep under my roof, without fear of being uprooted overnight. Vanessa's face drained of color, then hardened into fury. "This isn't over," she hissed, her voice low but sharp enough for me to hear. Noah squeezed my hand as we walked out. "Can I put my things in the blue room, Grandma?" he asked softly. That was the room that had grown with him from crib to bunk bed to a teenager's space filled with space posters and books. Of course, I replied, my voice catching. I wanted to make it sound ordinary, as though this were just another weekend visit, but inside I knew we had entered a new chapter. At home, I made grilled cheese sandwiches, Noah's favorite comfort meal. He dropped his backpack by the stairs and said casually, Mom didn't make breakfast this morning. She was busy getting ready for court. The comment was so offhand, so normal for him, that my chest ached. As he ate, I called Rachel, my daughter, who had flown in and out during her surgical residency. The judge gave me custody, I whispered. That's the best news, Rachel said firmly. Mom, I'm coming home. You won't face this alone. Relief washed over me. For the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was fighting this battle in isolation. Together, we would protect Noah. Rachel arrived the very next morning, her suitcase barely touching the floor before she spread papers across the kitchen table. I pulled Noah's medical records, she said, her voice brisk. Missed vaccinations, skipped checkups, delayed prescriptions. It's a clear pattern. Clara leaned over the documents, her heart heavy but grateful. Rachel had always been the practical one, decisive even under pressure. Now her focus was on protecting her nephew. This shows neglect, Rachel continued. Courts won't ignore it. Later that day, they met with Patricia, their attorney. She studied the stack of records, nodding slowly. Judges weigh this kind of evidence carefully. You're building a strong foundation. For Clara, the weight on her chest lightened. For weeks, she had carried the burden alone, picking Noah up when Vanessa forgot, feeding him when dinners never appeared, reassuring him when plans were broken. With Rachel by her side, she no longer felt like a tired widow fighting a battle alone. She felt like part of a team. That night, Clara overheard Rachel tucking Noah into bed. His voice was small but earnest. Aunt Rachel, do you think Dad would be okay with all this? Rachel smoothed his hair. Your dad wanted one thing, for you to be safe and loved. Grandma and I are making sure of that. Noah was quiet for a moment before whispering, I know. He trusted you both. Clara stood in the hallway, tears stinging her eyes. It wasn't just about legal documents or courtrooms anymore. It was about a boy holding on to what was left of his father, trusting the two women who had promised to carry him through. In that moment, Clara knew they were no longer just defending custody. They were fighting for Noah's future. Clara had barely started to breathe easier when Patricia called with new developments. Vanessa had filed an emergency motion, claiming Clara was exploiting Noah for financial gain. She's accusing you of using his trust fund for yourself, Patricia explained. Clara nearly laughed at the absurdity. Since Daniel's death, every expense had been by the book, mortgage payments, tuition, school supplies, all carefully tracked. Still, Patricia warned, it's a smart tactic. It shifts the spotlight from her behavior onto you. The court will have to investigate. Rachel slammed her coffee mug down. Classic Darvo, deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. She's projecting her own motives onto you. A second blow came quickly. Vanessa demanded supervised visitation for Clara, accusing her of manipulating Noah against his mother. Clara's heart clenched. I've never said a word against her to him, she whispered. Rachel squeezed her hand. The truth will stand, but we need evidence. That evening, Clara confided in Diane, her neighbor and longtime friend. Diane's outrage was immediate. Everyone on this street has seen Noah show up at your door, hungry or wearing the same shirt for days. If the court wants testimony, you'll have plenty. True to her word, Diane rallied the neighborhood. Within days, Clara's inbox filled with written statements, accounts of Vanessa's neglect, her absences, her indifference. Families who had quietly observed now spoke up with clarity and compassion. When Rachel returned from picking Noah up from school, he carried his phone close to his chest. Grandma, he said quietly, I've been keeping recordings too. Times Mom forgot me, or when she said things about Dad's watch collection. I wanted proof. Clara's throat tightened. He was 12, too young to carry such responsibility. Yet his determination echoed Daniel's own. Clara hugged him tightly. Thank you, sweetheart. But remember, this fight isn't yours to carry. It's ours. Still, she knew, his courage might become their strongest defense. The first sign of retaliation came at 3 a.m. A shattering crash jolted Clara from sleep. Heart pounding, she crept downstairs to find glass glittering across the living room floor. A brick lay in the center of the carpet with a note tied to it, drop the case or worse next time. She dialed 911 with shaking hands, whispering to the dispatcher, my grandson is in the house. Please hurry. Noah, still asleep upstairs, never heard the officers arrive. They documented the damage but offered little comfort. Without witnesses or camera footage, we can't identify who did this. By sunrise, Rachel had installed a full security system. Cameras covered every corner of the house. Noah watched wide-eyed as his aunt drilled mounts into the siding. "Do you think Mom did it?" he asked hesitantly. Clara chose her words with care. Sometimes desperate people make poor choices. What matters is that you're safe. 2 days later came the second attack, less violent, but no less damaging. Vanessa launched a social media campaign, posting old photos of her with Daniel and Noah, crafting captions about a grieving mother being alienated by a controlling grandmother. Strangers flooded the comments with sympathy, while distant relatives shared the posts with outrage. Rachel scrolled through the feed in disbelief. "She's rewriting the story, making you the villain." Patricia advised restraint. "Do not engage. Judges ignore online drama. Document everything but stay silent." The third blow struck a week later when Child Protective Services appeared at Clara's door, responding to an anonymous report of medical neglect. The social worker inspected the fridge, asked questions, even spoke privately with Noah. At the end, her tone softened. "Mrs. Townsend, I see no cause for concern. These cases are common in custody disputes, but be aware there may be more visits." That night, Clara sat awake at the kitchen table. The war had shifted from courtrooms to shadows, bricks, and lies. And Vanessa wasn't finished yet. Noah's shoulders had begun to slump under the pressure. He startled easily, skipped meals, and woke often at night. When Rachel suggested therapy, he shook his head. "I'm not crazy," he muttered. "It's not for crazy people," Rachel explained gently. "It's like physical therapy just for your feelings. Even doctors need help sometimes." Reluctantly, Noah agreed. That's how Dr. Kavita Shah entered their lives, a child psychologist with a calm voice and a gift for making children feel safe. After only a few sessions, she reported back to Clara privately. "Noah is resilient, but he feels responsible for protecting you. He believes he has to shield you from his mother." Clara's chest tightened. "That's the last thing I wanted." "Children sense more than we realize," Dr. Shah said kindly. "He sees your worry. And there's something else. Vanessa has been messaging him privately, saying if he agrees to come home, she'll stop biting you." Clara's heart sank. Manipulation disguised as motherly concern. "What do we do?" "First, restrict communication. Use only monitored channels. Second, reassure Noah he doesn't have to solve this. The adults will. And third," Dr. Shah added gently, "you need support too. You've been carrying grief and conflict on your own shoulders for too long." That evening, Clara and Rachel filed an emergency motion requiring all communication through a co-parenting app. As they prepared dinner, Rachel's phone buzzed with news that made her pause. "Mom, you won't believe this. Vanessa just got a job in the hospital billing department, the same place that handles employee medical records." Clara froze. It wasn't coincidence. "She's not just after Noah anymore," she whispered. "She's after us." Rachel's jaw tightened. "Then we fight smarter. She may play dirty, but we won't let her win." Clara nodded, though inside she trembled. The battle wasn't only about custody anymore. It had become a war for trust, safety, and truth. Clara sat across from Patricia, her attorney, with Rachel by her side. The weight of sleepless nights showed in every line on her face. "What if we end this another way?" she asked quietly. "Vanessa doesn't want Noah. She wants money. What if we give her some of ours, not the trust fund, and ask her to walk away?" Patricia nearly dropped her pen. "You're suggesting a payout?" "Clara, judges may see that as buying custody." "I don't care how it looks," Clara said firmly. "Every day this fight drags on, Noah suffers. If peace has a price, I'll pay it." Rachel leaned forward. "It wouldn't be simple bribery. We'd frame it as compensation tied to her relocation. Vanessa's already talking about moving to Phoenix with Brandon. If she leaves, she can argue that it's in Noah's best interest to stay here." Patricia hesitated. Voluntary termination of parental rights is rare. Courts usually require adoption or severe abuse cases. "Then let her bring it up herself," Rachel countered. "We don't mention termination. We just make a settlement offer. Vanessa's greed will do the rest." Clara nodded slowly. "If she chooses money over her son, it will prove what we've known all along." Days later, the phone rang. Vanessa's voice was calm, almost businesslike. "Clara, we need to be practical. This court battle is draining everyone. I've been considering a permanent solution. Noah stays with you, and I move forward in Phoenix. In exchange, I'd expect financial recognition. After all, I'd be giving up my parental rights." Clara gripped the table, keeping her tone steady. And what would that recognition look like? A one-time payment, Vanessa replied smoothly. $250,000. Clara exhaled. The very thing Patricia had warned of was unfolding exactly as Rachel predicted. Vanessa was ready to put a price tag on motherhood. The August morning carried a stillness that felt almost surreal as Clara and Noah walked up the courthouse steps. He wore the same navy blazer from months earlier, now a little snug after a summer growth spurt. Clara smoothed the collar, her heart caught between pride and sorrow. Inside, Judge Harrison presided once more. Vanessa sat opposite them in a muted gray dress, Brandon by her side, his expression impatient. The agreement had been reviewed, the terms signed. Today was about making it final. Ms. Reynolds, the judge began, do you understand that voluntary termination of parental rights is permanent and irreversible? Yes, Your Honor, Vanessa replied, her voice steady but low. And you understand that after today you will have no legal right to visitation, communication, or decision-making for Noah? I understand. Judge Harrison studied her for a long moment before turning to Noah. His tone softened. Noah, do you know what this means? Yes, sir, Noah said, standing tall. It means my mom is ending her role as my parent. My grandma will take care of me. My dad always said family is about showing up. Grandma and Aunt Rachel show up for me. I'll be okay. A ripple of emotion moved through the courtroom. Clara swallowed hard, tears stinging her eyes at her grandson's quiet strength. The judge nodded. Then I find the agreement to be in the child's best interest. Custody is hereby granted to Clara Townsend, with Rachel Townsend named successor guardian. The parental rights of Vanessa Reynolds are terminated. The gavel fell with gentle finality. Clara closed her eyes, a weight lifting from her chest. The battle was over. Outside, Noah looked up at her. Is it really done, Grandma? Yes, sweetheart, she whispered, pulling him close. It's done. We can finally start living again. A year later, the Townsend home no longer felt like a battleground. It felt like a place where life could finally breathe again. The front garden overflowed with color from the flowers Noah and Clara planted together that spring. The house, once weighed down with tension, rang with the sounds of ordinary living homework sprawled on the dining table, laughter during family dinners, the low hum of peace that Clara had once feared would never return. Noah was thriving. At 13, he had shot up in height, his voice deepening, his energy spilling into everything he touched. He joined the robotics club, winning second place at a regional competition with a solar-powered design. When he accepted his ribbon, Clara stood in the audience with Rachel at her side, clapping until her hands ached. Pride surged through her, not just for the award, but for the light that had returned to her grandson's eyes. Rachel balanced her medical career with frequent visits, always carving out time for Noah. She became more like a second parent than an aunt, guiding him through school choices, even teaching him how to cook pasta properly, a skill he insisted he'd mastered better than her. Their bond had grown strong, forged by crisis and solidified by love. One evening after dinner, Noah pulled out his tablet. There's something I want you both to hear, he said softly. He played a recording Clara had never known existed. It was Vanessa's voice, quiet, almost weary. I was never meant to be a mother. Daniel wanted a child and I tried, but I can't do it. He deserved better for Noah. When the recording ended, Noah looked down. I kept it back then. I didn't want the judge to hear it. It would have destroyed her completely. Even if she hurt me, she was still my mom. Clara felt tears slip down her cheeks. She reached across the table, covering his hand with hers. That mercy, Noah, that kindness is your strength. Don't ever lose it. Rachel's eyes softened. Your dad would have been proud. Not for the awards, not even for the grades, but for the man you're becoming. Later that night, Clara sat on the porch beneath the stars, the hum of crickets filling the quiet. She thought of Daniel, his laughter, his stubbornness, his fierce devotion. She whispered into the night, as though he could hear, he's safe, my son. We kept our promise. For the first time in years, Clara's chest no longer felt weighed down. The scars of the past remained, but they no longer defined them. What remained was something stronger, a family rebuilt not by blood alone, but by love, loyalty, and the courage to endure. The story of their struggle was over. The story of Noah's future was only beginning.